Can anyone with a driver's license just go and test drive luxury or performance cars? When I went to look at cars, ordinary daily cars, nothing special. All I needed to test drive a car was my driver's license. So I was wondering about other higher-end cars. For instance, could I just walk into a BMW dealership and request a test drive in an M3? Or are there certain barriers to that kind of thing? Not talking about ultra high-end or supercars like Rolls-Royces or Lambos. Probably not. You might be able to drive a regular 3 Series, but they're going to want to qualify you as a serious buyer before allowing a test drive of a car like an M3. Even more so for a super high-end car. It's really up to the dealer. Years ago, I wanted to buy a Corvette. Everywhere I went was the same story: we need to do a full credit check and draw up the sales contract before you can even test drive it. Even in one case where it was an older one that was worth less than the truck I drove up in, the one place that was immediately like, sure, let me get the keys. Let's go. That was the one I bought. Never hurts to ask. But the more serious you look, mannerisms, clothes, etc. will go a long way. If you can talk shop on cars, the best way would be to show up and start looking at the cars you want to drive. A salesperson will show up, and if you show you're interested, they'll let you drive it with the salesperson in the passenger seat. If that's all you want, easy enough. So long as the vehicle only requires a Class G license, you can drive it. It's up to the dealer's discretion if they let you drive their property. It's the salesperson's job to basically screen you. When I worked for Ford and I was new, I made the mistake of offering a test drive to everyone who looked at a Raptor or Mustang GT. I learned quickly this was a quick way to waste my time. When it came to expensive performance cars that might be a bit more fun to test drive than to actually buy, I would basically qualify the customer first. Ask things like if they were trying to buy cash or finance, what payments did they have in mind, what their credit score looked like. $300 a month with a $600 on an $80,000 Raptor? I'll show you the door before I show you the keys. Depends on the dealer. You'll have to sell them the idea that you're actually interested in purchasing the car and not just there to take advantage of them. Expect to be denied for some BS reason. I tried this with a WRX and was turned down. I'm a brown dude in Silicon Valley. And broke. McLaren of Palo Alto let me test drive a 570S with no issues or questions. They just scanned my license. As someone that has owned 50 cars, all from dealerships, there is only one car I wasn't ever able to test drive. Was a 2005 Porsche Carrera GT. My salesman offered to let me drive it, knowing I have already had bought 3 cars from him. Mostly used Audis under $25,000 though. He went to go get the keys and his manager immediately stopped him. Wouldn't even let me sit in it. Other than that, no problems testing Hellcats, M3s, M5s, M2s, 911s non-turbo and a plethora of other vehicles that were out of my price range. A couple places asked for me to put $10,000 down, but they pulled that requirement and let me drive. Anyways, it's up to the dealer, who has the incentive of not wasting their time. That said, I have actually test-driven some super fun cars without any intention to buy them. Because I had accompanied other people who were buying cars and I was just patiently waiting, and I guess it was a slow day for the salesman, so they were like, "Hey, you want to go for a drive?" This has actually happened to me several times. Tell them your passion for cars and you only want to drive it once. For the feeling and being honest, so I did at a BMW dealer. For a ride in BMW M5. But I was around 30 years old. So 20 years ago, and I also have told them about the special driving trainings I had have as an Extra, and which fun that was. It was just a conversation of two car enthusiastic persons, and he handed me over the car keys. After the chat, it was a nice and special ride. The E39 M5. You can also rent a luxury car for a day or so. Yes, it cost money, but you can freely enjoy the car of choice. Nothing at all to stop you, other than having to make awkward conversation and maybe get a few follow-up phone calls trying to sell you it. But all you'll get to do is drive it around the block a few times. Get a feel for it. You won't be putting your foot down and opening it up. I did a few times to get a try of higher-end golf courses. Pretended to be interested in joining and played them on a summer evening for free. Haven't done this in years, but my college GF and I would often dress up as a yuppie couple and test drive performance cars for fun on weekends. Only the Porsche dealer required a deposit. Jag, Performance, Dodge, Miata, Audi, Acura, Infiniti, etc. no problem. At the time I was driving a clean Crown Vic. Ford dealer was a PETA to get away from without signing papers after we'd driven a Mustang GT. I am pretty sure if I'd been driving a Hyundai and we'd been in regular clothes we would have been given more of a hard time. According to a friend who sells high-end cars, good shoes and or a good watch are what he uses to gauge a serious buyer. Yes. Dress rich. I've been allowed to test drive Corvettes, Porsches, and some M-series BMWs with zero income verification. There's an old story I read on a car subreddit that where a mechanic did something like this. I made up the brands. Drive your beater to a Kia dealership and ask to test drive a used car 2-3 years old. Drive that car to a Toyota dealership. Your new-ish Kia will persuade them you're serious, and they let you test drive a Toyota. Take the Toyota to a BMW dealership, and so on until you're taking a test-driven Porsche to a Ferrari dealership, where they will take you seriously and let you test drive something. Most dealerships will have internal requirements for test driving cars. So if you want to test drive a Nissan Maxima, you are probably fine. But a Nissan Z as a 17-year-old, then likely not. It's also how likely are you able to afford the car. So I, as a 37 meters walk into a dealership, I would likely be able to drive anything less a very high-end performance vehicle. You can possibly rent it for the experience you want. Legally, yes. But they might not necessarily take you seriously. When I was 20, I was looking for a semi-responsible econosports car. I saw an Altima 3.5 coupe at the Nissan dealership and asked for a test drive. The guy literally chuckled and said, "Here, take a pamphlet and come back later," basically trying to get rid of me because he thought I was just trying to test drive cars and waste their time. Long story short, I enjoyed my Civic C for years. Most salespeople work on commission. If you're literally planning on just wasting someone's time, at least pass the guy 100 just super grimy. You wouldn't need anything more than your license and proof that you have finances and are interested in the car and not just looking for a joyride. I test drove a 7 Series, X5 and M5. Should be no problem if you are a serious buyer. To put in frame, I already bought 4 BMWs, so that probably plays a big role. No. What kind of watch are you wearing when you go? Yes. As long as you're licensed and the dealer okes it. You do not need another class of license to drive a high-end sports car. When you start pulling weight is when restrictions begin to apply. Nah. They'll want to run your credit before to see if there's any chance you'll actually be able to finance the car. You can, however, rent on Turo for like $150 a day. You can ask, but I doubt they send you in something really expensive.